pretty fun. Yeah, good little quick 85. Yeah. Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com.
I'm Bob. How's it going?
Bob and I are here today to talk about a brand new Dynastar M-Pro 85.
Yeah, this one's pretty cool.
No, I like it.
Yep.
In the written article, I kind of talked quite a bit about how it was 2 years ago now that we talked about these first, and along with them came the M-Pro 84, which kind of got glossed over, but the M-Pro 84 was really just the Legend 84 in new clothing.
Right. And like, interestingly enough, like, I really liked that old Legend X84.
Sure.
Like, I thought that thing was awesome.
Yep.
Even skiing it back to back with this predecessor, the 88.
Still a good ski.
I thought it was awesome. Like, I skied them back to back and I was like, oh, this 84, there's something to it that I really
compared
like.
to the 88.
Compared to the old 88.
The Legend 88.
Yep. Yeah, which should be more my style on paper. But
sure.
The reality of it was that 84 was great. So I'm really happy to see this 85 kind of take some of this stuff.
Yeah, it takes most of this stuff. It follows the same trends and recipe, so to speak. We say some. Do you want to kind of go into some of the details of what those some things are and what the other things aren't?
Yeah, basically what they've done is they've taken the main internal blueprint of having a poplar wood core hybrid with polyurethane. I'll get to that in just a second, but their rocket frame technology that they've used in the M-Pro 90 and 99, that tighten layer that's, that geometrically cut shape goes into here, but is used in fiberglass as opposed to Titanal. So it is lighter, snappier, more energetic. Doesn't quite have the dampness of the higher end metal skis, but does pretty darn well for what it is. And so that not only has a lot to do with the fiberglass, but also that hybrid core. So full poplar through the center. And then they use this polyurethane material, which is basically like the plastic found in a 120 Flex Alpine boot, and build it into the center of the core of the ski. So basically the central part is all wood, poplar, and then over the edges is the polyurethane material. Really has a unique feel to it. I think we both kind of remarked when we first got on this.
Absolutely.
That like, wow, what a difference. Back in with the older Legend skis, that hybrid material was really only found in the forebody, but now it's throughout. So whether it's M-Pro or even M-Free where this technology is used, really just kind of makes a lot of sense and sets these Dynastar skis apart from the rest of the category or the rest of the industry.
It's also cool that it's like along the edges, so you benefit most from it when you're on your edges.
Right. Yeah, and it's just a unique damp feeling to it, super quiet, and has some good energy. It's definitely a slightly different feel than that wood core.
Yep.
But that's what gives it kind of the balance that we like about them.
Yeah, a little smoother.
Yeah. So that fiberglass extends through the middle here, similar to what we see in the wider ones, ends about here, and then the script is flipped in the tail where that fiberglass gets wider and ends right about here. So a little bit more strength and energy and pop to the tail as a result of that laminate.
Yeah.
And you definitely feel that. So when you get this thing on edge, easy to get up there on edge, holds really well throughout. Even without metal in this ski, that PU material does a great job. And then lots of, like, a nice boost out of the tail. That's really kind of the hallmark of having this shape at the end, is that you really get to load up the ski and get the energy where you need it.
Reverse mullet shaping concepts.
Right. It's pretty fun. But we do see a lot of those differently shaped, whether it's fiberglass or Titanal in a lot of different skis. It's always interesting how we talk about it, like how they apply it and what it does. Does the reality, live up to the expectation? And, where do they go from here, really?
Yeah. No, we've had this conversation before, and it's like, in some ways, the construction here and the whole concept behind this ski is like almost polar opposite from some other skis.
Right.
Where like that we've talked about skis like this before, where the forebody is designed to be stronger with more metal. Mindbenders are a great example. And then the metal is through the center in the tail, allowing the tail to kind of swish around a little bit more easily. And this is almost backwards from that idea. Do you want the second ski to show off shape?
Sure do, Jeff. 85 millimeters underfoot, and we are getting a fair amount of tip rocker here. So I always like to push them together and see where that rocker starts. And we've noticed this with the wider skis as well, that it does have that long, really gradual, steady rocker profile in the tip.
Extremely progressive.
Yeah, there's no like jutting out. It's just a very, very steady rise and not a ton of splay. So that's, really nice for, entering the turn. We talk about those 99s and the 90 a lot as a skier ski where you have to put your input in. Conversely, we talk about that Mindbender from K2. When you put your energy into it, just a little bit goes a long way. It really just hooks in and pulls you in because that metal is in the forebody and the tip. This, you're dealing with the rocker and the lack of metal, so you do have to put your own input into it, which a lot of people really enjoy. And then in the tail, it's a little bit more all mountain oriented, a little bit more on trail friendly. Right above where that fiberglass ends is where that rocker starts. Again, minimal splay. That's kind of what you're looking for. We're talking about an 85 millimeter ski, but it does kind of have this more wider free-ridey heritage to base itself off of.
Yeah, I think it might be just off the top of my head, skis in the mid 80 range. I can't think of anything with longer tip rocker.
Yeah.
There might be something. Dynastar DPS Pagoda Piste 90, maybe, but that's not mid 80. It's an interesting shape for a ski in this width range.
Yeah. And then we get just slightly progressive taper shape here. It's nothing, unless you're really, really looking at it hard, you can't tell much of a difference. The 99 and the 90 are a little pointier in the tip, and then this one's a little bit rounder. So bringing the widest part a little bit closer to the front of the ski is going to help that with that turn initiation and longer effective edge. But generally, these are all very similar in terms of that taper shape and rocker profile, just slightly width dependent.
No, I like how straight the ski is through this portion, and I feel like that really comes through in its performance.
Yeah. Speaking of performance, Jeff, you got on these.
Yeah,
you were ripping some groomers.
I skied them more than you did. They're really fun. I guess I'll just start there. I think, and I don't know, I like giving attention to skis like this because they get lost, sort of. Just within Dynastar's line, you could look at the 4x4, the Speed Zone 4x4 82, and then this thing, and you're just literally skipping right over the M-Pro 85, and I do think that a lot of consumers do that when they're shopping, and I don't know. It's disappointing to me. It's like I have some weird fondness for these skis, or I feel bad for them, and I'm like, no, but these are really fun. I had a blast skiing them. I think the easiest way for me to describe their performance differing from these is all the characteristics about skier control comes through with this. And we talked about that at length when we did this review, I believe. Like you were saying, you have to tell the ski what you want to do. It's not going to pull you into a turn. It doesn't just take off on you. It doesn't feel like you're riding a ski with pre-existing plans, or the ski has a mind of its own and you're just staying balanced and like making the movements that the ski wants you to make. On this ski, you have to make those movements. Now, I like that a lot about these two skis, and I certainly like both of these two skis. What was challenging on these two skis, and I think Dynastar is aware of this, you know, and it's not like not a negative thing about the ski in general, but they're pretty darn stiff.
Yeah.
Especially in the tail.
Yep.
And I think that, like, both for somebody like me who's not particularly heavy and for a less aggressive skier, that can kind of be a lot to deal with.
Right.
Like, I really enjoy skiing both of these, but it kind of takes like all I have to really get them to sing, you know? I can ski them just fine, but if I want that responsive, rewarding feel, particularly coming out of a carve, then it takes a lot of skier input. I got to really be centered in, or like pushing in the front of my boots and be centered and balanced and really driving them. On these, it's like the initiation phase and the whole skiing experience feels very similar, but you don't have to go as fast and you don't have to ski as hard.
Right.
Which, like, I guess that's why I get so hung up in this category and why I think it should get more attention is, like, it's supposed to be fun. The whole activity is supposed to be fun. Yep. Like, sure, you could bring up ski racing or any competitive format and, like, kind of argue with me that, like, well, that's not supposed to be, like, they're not out there to have fun. They're out there to ski their best and most efficiently.
And win, I guess.
Right, and win something. And, like, I get that, but all of these, they're about having fun.
Right.
And if you're a recreational skier, or, like, recreational probably comes along with some negative connotations, too. If you ski less than 50 days a year, you'd probably have more fun on this than one of these. And, you know, you can kind of take that with a grain of salt. Like, there is some truth to that, and some people who would prefer these. You know, I'd venture a guess that you would always choose this over this if you had the option. And you're 225 pounds and you ski like 140 days a year.
Right.
Which is like an extreme outlier.
Right.
Compared to the rest of the population of skiers. So getting on something like this, you can bend it more easily. I can bend it more easily. I had just a blast making like super nice, round, clean carving turns on pretty flat terrain. And you spend a lot of time on flatter terrain out there. It could handle steep terrain just fine.
Yep.
But like it just had more of a rewarding, fun experience for me. And I think, I don't know, I just feel strongly that there's a lot of skiers out there that ski heavy, stiff skis and probably would have more fun if they checked their ego at the door a little bit and just skied something like this.
Yeah, I mean, we're on the mountain a lot. We see a lot of skiers and on a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
And more often than not, you know, we're not saying that person's on the wrong ski, but like you said, that person would likely have more fun on something like this.
Right, yeah, I'm not going to tell anybody they made the wrong decision. You can make whatever decision you want. That's what's so fantastic about this society that we live in.
Yeah.
You live the life that you want to live.
Right.
But, I don't know, as an expert in this field, I just can't help but like look at skiers on the mountain and be like, eeh.
Yeah.
I think they don't know what they're missing.
Right.
Because they're skiing something that's a little too stiff for them, a little too heavy, stuff like that.
Yeah, and we talk about range a lot. You know, like, here's the range of skiers in the world.
Right.
Like, this is the range of the Dynastar 85.
Right.
You know,
where,
this is the range of the M-Pro 99
yeah,
and 90.
Totally.
You know, it's just a bigger range. It takes a bigger swath of skiers.
Right.
So, you know, and I share your frustration in that these get lost.
Yeah.
We talk about it with vocal canjo as well.
Right.
Where something in this mid-80s range that's perfect for
the canjo
like
is a great
95% of the days.
Right.
For 90% of the skiers.
Right.
You know, you're hitting a huge target audience.
Right.
Versus something a little bit more specific like this, both in scope and ability
and
level.
to stick with the vocal analogy, like most of those skiers go by mantras.
Right.
And should they have? Like, I don't know. That's where like the you get to do whatever you want thing comes back into play. But it's just hard to ignore the fact that, it's hard to ignore the concept and idea that they might have more fun on something narrower and a little softer.
Yeah, and I kind of like dislike the hierarchy of skis, and you can look at this lineup and be like, Kanjo, Kendo, Mantra.
Right.
You know,
that's
and
the analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't like this one getting left behind.
No, me neither. Like, Dynastar will sell more of these than these. But I think there are more of these skiers in the world than these.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is like oversimplifying it a little bit, but I don't know. It's just a hard thing for me to ignore. That same concept also holds true when you take them off trail. You know, I feel like on these skis, and I think we talked about this quite a bit on this ski, the difference between like the forgiveness and the fact that this tip shape is pretty user-friendly, but then the tail is pretty demanding.
Yeah.
So when you take this off trail, if you're skiing trees or something like or trees or moguls or anything more technical with variable, ungroomed snow conditions, you have to kind of actively unweight the tail. And it got me thinking back to like, yeah, there's a reason we don't ski long straight skis anymore, because you physically had to pick them up off the snow to put them over there. And there's some of that on these, because this ski is quite a bit softer. It's kind of, you know, the tail's not fighting you as much when you take it off trail. There is still that same shaping concept in here, so there's a little bit of that. You know, if you were to compare it to like a twin tip with a ton of tail rocker, like there's a bent 90 sitting over there somewhere or something like that. If you skied it back to back with that, like, yeah, this is gonna require a little bit more skier input, but it's just not as punishing as these stiffer skis.
Right.
So
that's
my take.
Well, I mean, you know, and we talked about this recently with like the Hustle 10, like how does marketing affect the usability of a ski in a real world situation? Right. And how do ski companies kind of overcome the need to have this on the front cover of a magazine or whatever versus the actual usability and, you know, the reward of skiing the 85 for more skiers? Like, how do they get the right people to buy the right ski? Yeah. And that's where I get kind of...
And the marketing message, the issue here is that it just like doesn't exist in this category. Right. Like, you don't see Vocal putting out like a ton of posters of skiers on Kanjos. Right. And like, it's just, there's just that swath of skis from like 80 to 90 underfoot that just get lost. Yeah. Unless it's like a Stokely Montero AR, and then everyone freaks out.
Right. But like a totally like a great
they can do
comparison.
Very similar things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, obviously there's differences in those skis and different limitations and stuff like that, but there's no reason why this shouldn't at least get more attention. Yeah. So, interesting review today.
Yeah. No, I mean,
that was a fun conversation.
No, and I think that talking about these segments is really important.
Yeah, and like, who knows if my lasting impact on the ski world is that more skiers ski 85 underfoot all mountain skis. Right. I will retire very proud someday.
Yeah. You've accomplished something. Yeah. You've given a gift to the sport of skiing.
And who knows, in 30 years, maybe we'll have totally different concepts, and when I retire, I won't remember this at all.
We'll be levitating over the snow by then. This won't even be a thing.
It'll be air riding. Yeah. We'll be talking about which charging port is more efficient for our hover skis.
There's going to be something going on, yeah.
Anyways, until then, let us know if you have any questions about actual skis. More than happy to answer them. Let us know if you have any thoughts about mid-80 underfoot skis in general, too. I'd love to kind of hear your opinions. And yeah, we'll see you guys out there on the hill.
Bye.